Hello, this is Emily with Estate Sale Homes Northwest, and on this channel we discuss issues related to handling the estate of people who have recently died, where it's a probate or estate situation, and also downsizing homes for typically aging parents who are looking at getting into assisted living. There are a lot of similar issues and processes involved. So again, my name is Emily Cressey. I'm your host. I'm a local real estate agent in Washington State, and I'm happy to help you as you navigate through this process. It's often very difficult and overwhelming to be strapped with all the business needs of running two households at the same time, as well as the emotional grief that often comes at the loss of a loved one or someone's disability where they're in, medical need and those types of things. So I want to step this through at a high level so you can get an overview of what to expect. And if you have additional questions, I'm happy to be a resource for you and put you in touch with other professionals that you may need along your journey. Today's topic is, what does the personal representative do after a loved one dies and he becomes the personal representative of the estate? So we're going to dive into some particulars on that, and I hope you'll follow along. After someone dies and it turns out you're going to be in charge of their estate, one of the first things you'll want to do is to get a copy of the death certificate. And the reason is, much like a birth certificate, the death certificate is a formal document that allows you to act on behalf of someone who can't sign for themselves. For example, if you go into the bank and say, hey, I would like to have control of my father's bank account, the bank might say, that's not going to happen. But if you're able to present a death certificate and say, my father has passed away, I'm the personal representative, I need to be put in charge of handling his affairs, and I need to have access to the bank account, that's a different story. So you might want to get several certified copies, and the way you do that here in Washington State is through the Washington Department of Health. Each certified copy costs $25. The next step is to gather important documents. One of the biggest challenges that comes with being the personal representative is staying organized. It can get confusing and overwhelming pretty quickly, so making a plan to stay organized at the outset is a great idea. As mail comes in, make sure that you keep it all in one place, separate from your personal or business bills that you may pay from different accounts in your everyday life. You want to keep all of the things together when you're the personal representative so that the decedent's business stays in one place and you have accurate records of everything you'll need. This will make it easier to cross-reference, for example, whether you paid a bill, whether you've closed an account. You'll have everything you need in one place, ready to go, that you can easily refer back to when things start to get a little confusing a couple months down the road and you can't keep it all in your head anymore. Okay, next you need to call your attorney. You may or may not yet have a probate attorney, but if you don't, I really suggest working with a professional who can guide you through this process. If you need help with that, I work with a number of different attorneys. I'd be happy to make a recommendation. But the attorney will help, again, guide you through the legal process of closing out the estate, as well as handling any tax issues or paperwork problems that may come up along the way. You can also see if the decedent had an attorney that they were working with who may have written copies of wills, trusts, or other important paperwork that will come into play upon their death. So as you're going through their records and files, keep an eye out for any contact information that may pertain to who their attorney is and how to get in touch with him. Next, it's time to create an inventory of assets and liabilities. You can do something as simple as a blank piece of paper with a line down the middle, assets on one side, liabilities on the other. Assets are things that the decedent owned, which may be worth money. For example, we may have a house, we may have a car, we may have collectibles, furniture, tools, other items that could potentially be sold for money or that are money, such as stocks and cash. That represents value for the estate. On the other side of the inventory, start to keep track of what liabilities you're aware of. For example, does the house have a mortgage? Is there a credit card balance that needs to be paid or that can't be paid? Sometimes you'll find that there's all sorts of hidden money that a decedent has that you didn't even know about. And sometimes the opposite may be true. They may have debts or even become involved in things like elder fraud and different payments that they were making that you weren't aware of at all. So getting an idea of what's out there, either good or bad, is really important to do sooner rather than later. Typically, this can be done initially as a rough draft and then revised over time. So if you don't want to do it on a piece of paper, this one might make sense to do on your computer instead. And if you can, associate a value. So if you have a house, if you can get an idea of the value of that home. If you have furnishings, try to get an estimate of what those might be worth. And of course, if there's cash or stock involved, the current value of those should be pretty straightforward. I am a real estate agent, so if you have a house and you'd like to get a valuation of that, feel free to message me or reach out through my website, and I'd be happy to provide that for you with no cost or obligation. It's something I do all the time to help people out when they're trying to get an idea for today's market value of the property. This can come into play for tax reasons, so it's important to get an accurate idea of the home's value. Step 5 is to notify relevant parties about the decedent's passing. This may be something like contacting the bank account so that you can have check writing capability. It may be contacting a credit card company and closing out the credit card. For each and every asset, and in some cases liabilities that they have, find out if you need to get in touch with someone and let them know what's going on. In addition, this is a great time to pay attention to things like insurance policies. For example, they may have an insurance policy on their car. They're no longer driving, so you can go ahead and get that canceled and avoid any additional fees. Likewise, if they have a life insurance policy, that might be something that you want to find out about how you can cash in and get the proceeds from that policy that the estate is entitled to. Remember, as the personal representative, you're working on behalf of the estate. You may be the sole heir, you may not be an heir at all, but oftentimes there are brothers and sisters, siblings, grandchildren, and other people involved. So you are representing all of their interests by taking on these responsibilities. It's important to do it to the best of your ability and know that the others should be grateful for the time and energy that you're investing to get this done right. For that reason, I'm going to recommend keeping detailed records. This is recommendation number 6. And part of the reason for this is that sadly, when someone dies and money's on the table, there can be fights against, with people who used to get along. Brothers and sisters may be jealous or wish that there was more money to split or that it had been split differently. If they're angry, if they're grieving, they may have an instinct to attack you as the personal representative. It's not fair, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So make sure that in your capacity as that representative, you're doing everything you can to really keep good track of what's been done, when it's been done, and what the next follow-up steps are. You might want to get a journal, like a day timer, something like this, to help you plan what's going on. You may want to think about having a group email that goes out once a week to the important parties so that they know what's happening. And anytime that you have a phone call or write letters or other correspondence, you may want to keep a journal, especially with something that's not going to be resolved right away, like the sale of a property. You might say, week 1, contacted and interviewed real estate agents. Week 2, chose a real estate agent, signed a listing contract. Week 3, decided what repairs the home needed and decided which contractors to use to work that out. So you may be going through a list, and if somebody says, hey, why hasn't the home been sold yet? I want that money. Then you can easily show them the steps that are being taken, as well as provide any additional information on that track as well. And number 7, I'm going to warmly invite you to seek emotional support. This is a stressful situation because of the death and the loss, and also because of all of the additional work that you are undertaking. No one signs up for this. No one thinks it's fun. So we appreciate and recognize that it's a lot of work and that it's important for you to do it at a pace where you can protect your energy and continue to live your ordinary life and enjoy things while ensuring that the estate proceeds forward. So pace yourself, get some friends, have some people to talk to, whether it's your service providers. I talk to people like this, and it is very stressful and emotional, but as their real estate agent, I'm often working with them for many months before they put their home on the market, as well as after the sale. So feel free to reach out. I don't bill by the hour like attorneys, so sometimes that makes me a little bit more accessible. But it's a sensitive time. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle and forgiving of the other people who are in a stressed out situation, dealing with what's oftentimes grieving combined with financial concerns. So if you have any further questions, I'm always here to help. You can reach me on my website, and I'll look forward to seeing you there. In the meantime, keep watching. I've got more videos lined up, and we'll see you on the next one.